So you'll get a little notification there. Yes, it's recorded and we will post it as we do with all of our other webinars to our Florida HOSA website. So once we have it edited and uploaded, I will send an email out to all of the advisors letting you know that it's uploaded and where to find it on our website. I just ask that everybody stay on mute if you would until the end, just so there's no distractions. At the end, we will be doing a Q&A. That's usually very beneficial. So if you can stay till the end, I highly encourage it. But save all your questions until the end when we do the Q&A, and we would be happy to answer them then, because I have a lot to cover. So hopefully your questions will get answered while I go through everything that I need to cover. But if it's not, like I said, at the end, we will open it up for questions. So I'm going to share my screen and go through our website, the SLC page of our website. Okay, so I'm sure everybody by this point is familiar with our Florida HOSA website. So if you hover over conferences and click State Leadership Conference, it will take you to our SLC 2025 page. I'm sure many of you have already been here and checked out the documents, at least I hope you have. But it will be at the Marriott Orlando World Center again. We are actually here at the Marriott through 2030 as of right now. So just as a note, but that's where we've been at for the past few years. So we are there again. We are actually in their new section towards the end of that big long hallway that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So we're excited about that. We'll kind of have that whole area to ourselves at Florida HOSA. So we're getting excited, and it should be a great space for all of the competitive events and everything that we need. So it will be April 3rd through the 6th. I'd like to point out this big red box, bolded and underlined. This is newer this year. In the past, we have had a cancellation policy where you can cancel a week after the registration deadline. That is no more. So it is a board of directors policy now that there are no cancellations or refunds after the February 21st registration deadline. So once the SLC online registration deadline closes, whatever names are in the system that you've registered, they must be paid for. So there will be no exceptions. We have over 19,000 members this year, so we're still a 4-person staffed office, and we are very, very busy. So this is one of the changes that has been made that is newer from last year, where there are no cancellations or refunds after the deadline. So please keep this in mind. I'll probably mention it a couple more times on this webinar, but that doesn't mean you can't register somebody before February 21st and then delete them. It's just that if their name is in the system, once the registration closes, you must pay for them. We are allowing substitutions. I'll get into that in just a second. But substitutions for courtesy core voting delegates or team competitive event registrations, team competitive event, not individual, must be made by Friday, March 7th. And so we'll go through the team substitution information in just a second if you have any questions about that. I'd like to also point out this other red paragraph here. So it's Florida HOSA Inc.'s policy that all HOSA members attending the SLC, so this is members and advisors, chaperones, family guests, they must be accompanied by their chapter advisor or school approved chaperone and stay at the approved conference hotel, which is the Marriott Orlando World Center, for the duration of the conference. So beginning Thursday, April 3rd at 5 p.m. when our conference starts, through Sunday, April 6th when it concludes. And Florida HOSA does not approve or sanction a person missing any part of the conference. So please keep this in mind. I get some questions. Can my student leave and go to grad bash? No, they're there for the conference. So at that point, they must choose between going to SLC or going to Grad Bash or going to prom or whatever it may be. Please note that digital pre-conference uploads for competitive events will not be used this year. I know on the guidelines for ILC, they are doing digital uploads. We are not doing that. I'll get a little bit more into that when I go through the memo letter. If you know of anybody that's interested in exhibiting, we have exhibitor information right there. And then please just make sure you note that the deadline to register for the conference online now is February 21st. Okay, so the first document I want to go into, and we'll go through all of these, some more in depth than others, but the memo letter, I hope all of you have read it because it has a lot of important information in it. I want to note that all student members right here, all student members attending the SLC must have an assignment or function. So they must be in a competitive event. They must be a courtesy corps member or a voting delegate, or they must be a state officer candidate. So I want to note for our new advisors, this wouldn't be new for you, but for our returning advisors, this is new, that the Leadership Academy no longer qualifies as an assignment or function. And it is only offered to members registered for one of the above assignments or functions, the ones that I had just listed. And the reason for that is because we at Florida HOSA pay a lot of money to have someone come and do the Leadership Academy for our members, far more than what we actually charge for the Leadership Academy. And we did an analysis last year because we've kind of seen the trend over the past few years. And we did an analysis last year, and there were many chapters that were bringing students solely by the Leadership Academy. So their members were not in a competitive event or a courtesy corps, voting delegate, or state officer candidate. They were only coming by way of the Leadership Academy. And they were not attending the Leadership Academy. And that was one of the qualifications, that if you registered for the Leadership Academy, you had to attend. So unfortunately, now it is no longer a assignment or function because of that. So if your student member wishes to attend the Leadership Academy, we highly recommend it. Our members really do enjoy it and get a lot out of it. They can still attend, but they just must be registered for SLC in some other way. So like I said, in a competitive event, courtesy corps, voting delegate, or state officer candidate. And I will cover that registration and how much it is in just a second as well. We went through a lot of this here with that there must be a chapter advisor present. The deadline to register for the conference, like I had mentioned, is February 21st, 2025. It will close at 11:59 p.m. And we will not be allowing late registration. So you must complete your registrations by that deadline. And the reason we do not accept late registrations is because right after the registration closes, we start ordering things, programs, bags, everything that we give you all, we start ordering for the conference. So that is why all of the registrations must be completed by that deadline. Again, I had mentioned the no cancellations or refunds. All checks and forms must be mailed to the state office and postmarked by February 24th. We will go through a list of important deadlines, so we'll cover that. We'll go through the conference registration fee and all of that. But please make sure you're reading this memo letter if you haven't already, just so you're aware of all of the information. This is all very important information, or we wouldn't put it on the website and write it up. Please remember right here about the dress code. We will go into that in just a second as well. Your students must be in dress code for the entirety of the conference. There's information on hotel reservations. We also have another document that I'm going to cover about that if you are not already aware of the hotel block at the Marriott. Courtesy Core, we do have a sign-up document, same sign-up as we used last year. So if you're familiar with that, we'll be doing that again. I'll go through that in just a second. Again, the Leadership Academy, like I had mentioned. So again, it is not a assignment or function, a way to get to the SLC this year and moving forward. The cost is $10 this year. And again, like I had mentioned, all members who register for the Leadership Academy must attend the Leadership Academy. So there's no exceptions there. And attendance will be taken, so we will know those who register and do not attend. The National Anthem audition, that deadline has passed. Here's some more conference information in terms of all of the forms, but we'll be going through all of these. And then competitive event responsibilities, we do have assignments. We assign our advisors to help with our competitive events. We are so large. It is part of our bylaws that as an advisor, you may be selected to help with running a competitive event. So I'll go through that as well. Like I had mentioned, there are no digital uploads for our normal competitive events, except for the American Red Cross Volunteer, Barbara James Service Award, Health Literacy Ambassador, HOSA Happenings, and HOSA Service Project. So basically our recognition events. And I'll go through that as well soon. We do not offer, I get this question a lot, we do not offer the National Geographic testing or the Emotional Wellbeing Challenge. Those are not offered at SLC. Those are ILC only events. Please keep in mind, if you have a member that's competing in personal care, life support skills, interviewing skills, or speaking skills, you must complete the accommodation request form that I will go over as well. And then we will talk a little bit more about Barbara James during the registration when I go through and show you how to do the online registration. But for Barbara James Service Award, the Florida HOSA board has allowed members to participate in Barbara James, but not attend the state leadership conference. So they're considered non-attending Barbara James as their registration. There is a registration fee for it. It is $20. And I can show you how to register for that when you go through in the online system. But if they would like to be recognized but are not wanting to actually attend the state leadership conference, they can register for the conference as non-attending Barbara James. You must, as the advisor, I'll show you how to do this, you must register them for the conference as well as the competitive event. Or it's a recognition event, but you must register them for both. So if you register them for the conference just as non-attending Barbara James, that's not going to do anything. They have to be also added to the recognition event in the system, and I will show you how to do that. So this is our memo letter, kind of a, an overall view of the conference and what we have going on, and I will go a little bit more in depth into some of these things. So our important deadlines document, very important. That's why it's called that. So this has all of the items that are due. Again, up at the top, you'll see we're not doing digital uploads. It's basically listed everywhere. So please don't email me and ask me if we're doing digital uploads, because we're not. And it is all over these documents. Please also make sure that you are thoroughly reading through the documents before you email me a question. Again, we have over 19,000 members. It's just the 4 of us at the state office. We're very, very busy and overwhelmed during this time of year. And I know you all have a lot going on too, but please make sure, the reason we put all of this information on our website is for you. So please make sure you're reading through this before you email me, because if you email me a question that can be answered in one of the documents, I'm just going to basically forward you to the document and tell you that it can be found there. So please make sure you're just reading through these. thoroughly and in depth to make sure that you can get all of your questions answered. And if you can't, if you look through everything and you can't get your question answered, then obviously please feel free to email me. But just make sure you're reading through everything first. So the state officer application, if you have any members that are interested in applying, that must be postmarked February 1st, and you as the advisor must sign off on it. And you just need to make sure that you're making sure that your member understands what type of position it is. They are representing Florida HOSA, and it is a big commitment. So if they are interested and you feel as though they can fulfill the position well, then obviously sign off, but it must be postmarked by February 1st. We do have a webinar recording if maybe you have a member that's interested that doesn't really know a lot about it. We do have a webinar recording on our website that they can watch. We did a state officer candidate Q&A with our state officer team, so they can watch that. The rookie and local advisor recognition forms, which I will show you in just a second as well, that is due, those are due February 14th to me. The online state conference registration deadline, like I had mentioned, is February 21st, 11:59 p.m. The hotel room reservation deadline is that same date, February 21st. And the courtesy core pre-registration is also that same deadline date of February 21st. Please make sure, and I'll mention this again, that you only have one courtesy core registered. So only one member of your chapter can be registered as a courtesy core. That doesn't mean that once you get to the conference that your other members that may be interested in being a courtesy core can't sign up. They can, they just have to be registered in another assignment or function. That can't be the only way that they get to the SLC, because each school, each chapter is only allowed one courtesy core. And they must assist all 3 days. So please make sure they understand that they must assist all 3 days. So that deadline is February 21st, the sign up, and I'll show you that sign up sheet as well. The full registration packet, which is including all of the forms that I will go through in just a minute, those all have to be postmarked by February 24th. And all of the forms must be sent together in one packet. The accommodation and eligibility form, that needs to be mailed with the registration packet and brought to SLC, so both. So mailed with the packet and brought to SLC. You can email it. We prefer if you put it in with your registration packet. It makes it a lot easier for us, but you can also email it to me. And those are for, again, for your members in personal care, life support skills, interviewing skills, and speaking skills. And that, again, must be postmarked by February 24th. The Florida HOSA Foundation Scholarship, that application is due February 28th by 11:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And more information is on the SLC page and on our rotating banner on our main website page. Scrolling down to the recognition category events. So these are the ones that I had mentioned about the digital uploads. So America's Blood Centers and HOSA Blood Drive, the deadline for those is on or before February 21st. These will all actually be on or before February 21st. So all data for the chapter must be entered per the guideline instructions. So please make sure you're reading the guideline instructions and following any of the links for uploading. And then the American Red Cross Volunteer Recognition on or before February 21st. So the chapter advisor must verify the member volunteer hours in the HOSA activity tracking system by that date. So if I was you, I would set a much earlier deadline for your student members to get their hours put in and uploaded so that you have some time to go in and approve and verify those hours before the deadline. So you're not scrambling at the last minute. So I would give them at least a week prior, if not more, to have, because they might encounter issues. If they do encounter any issues with uploading, please make sure they're looking at the guidelines and they're following the instructions verbatim. There are video links that show them how to upload their hours. So please make sure they're reading that. We get a lot of emails about this, and it's solved by just having them read the guidelines. So please make sure they read the guidelines before they upload, and that so that they're doing it correctly. And then it also has chapter advisor instructions of how to approve those hours as well in the guidelines. Barbara James Service Award, same thing, February 21st. The hours must be verified by the chapter advisor. Health Literacy Ambassador, February 21st, same thing. The hours must be verified by the chapter advisor. HOSA happenings, those need to be emailed to me by February 21st. My email is right there. And then the HOSA service project, on or before February 21st as well. And so you have to verify the volunteer hours in the system, same as the other ones that I had mentioned. So those are important deadlines. Please make sure you and your students are aware of these deadlines. They are firm. So no late ads, no late uploads. Those deadlines are firm. The online registration instructions document. So here it lists our conference registration fees. So it's $100 for each affiliated student, member, advisor, chaperone, and family guest. So all family guests that are coming, they must be registered. If they are not registered, they will not be allowed in the award sessions. We will have additional security than we have had in past years because we have had a problem with family guests sneaking in that are not registered. So if they think that they're going to get away with that this year, they will not. So please make sure that all family guests are registered and registered by the deadline. Same with chaperones, same with yourself and any other advisors, and then all of your student members. Again, like I had mentioned, the non-attending Barbara James Service Award only $20. I will show you that in the system as well. Our options and activities, there's only two that can be pre-purchased per se in the system. That's the Leadership Academy, which will be April 5th, and that's $10 per student. Again, have the little clause there, new this year, that it's not an assignment or function. They can add that on to their registration, but it cannot be the only way that they attend SLC. And then if they would like an SLC t-shirt, it is $18 if pre-ordered or $20 on site. Please note that if the pre-order policy is that once a t-shirt has been ordered, so once the deadline closes, I basically the next day order the t-shirts. So once a t-shirt has been ordered, it has to be paid for, even if the person cannot attend. And so any unclaimed t-shirts may be resold as well. We will be releasing the SLC t-shirt design hopefully next week. So your students can see what it looks like before the registration closes, so that they can decide whether they would like to pre-order it or not. Again, we've covered these two things in depth here, but again, all schools, including post-secondary, must be accompanied by a registered advisor or chaperone. And then you must stay at the approved conference hotel for the duration of the conference. Again, we covered this. The deadline to register is February 21st. There's information about the packet, what needs to be in it. Please do not send cash or personal checks. They will not be accepted, so we will shred them. If it's a personal check, cash, we can send back, but we do not accept cash or personal checks. So please make sure you're paying by a school check or money order. And that all needs to be sent with your packet and postmarked by February 24th. All registration fees should be included in one payment. Please do not send us 10 different money orders or 10 different checks or whatever it may be. You need to, if you have 10 different parents paying a different way, one person, needs to decide, okay, I'm going to get the money order. All the parents pay one parent and one parent gets a money order if that's how you're paying, if you're not paying by school check. But please do not send us multiple money orders or school checks. Make sure all registration fees are in one payment. If any changes are made to your online registration after sending your forms and payment to the state office, so if you do your full registration, you send out your packet and everything to us, and you make any sort of change, obviously before the deadline, because once the deadline passes, you can't get back in there and make any changes. Please notify Mandy at our office, and her email is listed right there. Again, no cancellations, refunds, and then we have the deadline for the substitutions on March 7th. I just talked about the payment, no cash or personal checks, and then send your fully completed packet to our address, which is listed right there. And then school checks and money orders must be made payable to Florida HOSA. I will talk more about the invoice and registration summary and things like that when we get into the system. But please make sure that your bookkeeper knows we are not global national HOSA. None of this is supposed to go to South Lake, Texas. Please make sure that they understand. I know it can get confusing for them because a lot of times the vendor will just say like HOSA or Florida HOSA, and they select the wrong one. Please just make sure they know that everything needs to come to Florida HOSA. Because if we do not have your payment before SLC, your chapter will not be able to attend. So please just make sure they understand that. And that will be at the top of the invoice. I'll show you that when we go through the registration online. The second page, I'm not going to go in depth, but this is our online registration instructions. You can read it at your leisure. Or if you have any questions after this, you can watch the recording where I go through how to do the registration. Okay, so the required registration forms, we've split it out to make it easy on you. So you have the advisor chaperone forms, you have the student member forms, you have the family guest forms, and you have the eligibility accommodation form. So the advisor, chaperone, student member, and family guest forms all need to be sent to the Florida HOSA state office. The eligibility accommodation form needs to be sent as well, but it's only for those designated events that we had spoke about. So the advisor chaperone forms, we have the SLC 2025 checklist. Please use this. It must be submitted with your registration packet when you send it in. But this is very helpful for you because it just makes sure that you have everything completed within the packet. Everything that needs to be sent, you have it included in your packet. It's just a checklist that helps do that. If you as the advisor are not attending SLC, but your chapter is coming and there is either another advisor attending that's not the main listed advisor, or there's a lead chaperone attending instead of you, please make sure you must put your name because you're the one filling it out. But please make sure you fill in this lead chaperone name and their cell phone number if you are not attending. We have to have that information. We need to know who to contact if you are not coming, and we need to know who's picking up your registration bags if you are not. So again, please make sure you're completing this full checklist. Please make sure you're signing right here at the bottom saying that you've collected all of the forms. This has to be filled out completely. We will send you an email if it is not. So please make sure that you're filling out this completely and sending it in with your registration packet. This is one of the most missed forms. So please, it's the first listed on it for a reason. So again, right here, please make sure you're filling that out and sending it with your packet. The Abuse Prevention Handbook and the Advisor Chaperone Screening Certification Form, both of these are required by our insurance company, so you must submit it. The Abuse Prevention Handbook, You need to read through it, and then you'll sign on the last page down here, the statement of acknowledgement and agreement. So each advisor and each chaperone that's registered must fill this out. And I get this question too, you only need to send in the last page. So you don't need to send in you don't need to print out the full handbook and send the whole handbook in, just send us the last page that's signed, filled out and signed. The advisor chaperone screening certification form, this must be filled out, all registered advisors and chaperones. So please make sure you fill this out as well. And then the advisor chaperone code of ethics and medical liability release form must be filled out by all registered advisors and chaperones. So it's a 2-page thing. You have the code of ethics on the first page and the medical liability on the second page. Please make sure you're reading the code of ethics. This is not a vacation. I know it's over one of your weekends, but it's not a vacation for the advisors. The advisor's role and responsibility is to oversee, manage, and make sure their students are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So please make sure you're not using this as a vacation to get away from your family or to stay at a resort and let your kids do whatever they want to do. No, you're there to chaperone them, to advise them, and make sure that they're behaving and staying on top of everything that they need to be doing while they're there. Okay, so going back to the required registration forms page, the student member forms, again, has to be sent to the Florida HOSA State Office. Again, that 2-page form, you have the student code of conduct, then you have the medical liability release form. Please make sure, whether you're middle school, high school, or post-secondary, every member you have registered must fill this out. I also want to mention too, we will have a 1 strike and you're out policy. So if my security wakes me up at 2 in the morning and says that your student is being disruptive or is breaking curfew or is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing something that goes against the code of conduct, I will send them home. So there are no 2-3 chances. I don't care what time it is, they will be sent home. And that is on this code of conduct, and their parent is also signing that, knowing that they understand that if they disregard this code of conduct that they've signed, it is the member and the parent's responsibility, any costs associated or anything like that they have to leave the conference. So please make sure that you're bringing students who deserve to go to SLC. You're not bringing students who are going to be disruptive. There are other members and people staying at the hotel that are not Florida HOSA. So we need to be respectful of that. So we will have a 1 strike and you're out policy. So they will be sent home if they disregard any part of this code of conduct. And their principal will also be notified, and any administration, higher up if need be. Please make sure they read this fully and understand what they're signing, and that their parents understand that as well. Family guest forms, same thing. There is a code of ethics for family guests, and there's a medical liability release form as well. So please make sure that all the family guests that are registered are filling this out. And please make sure any family or guests that think that they can sneak into the general sessions, remind them that they are not going to be able to do that. So they need to be registered just like everybody else, just like all the other family and guests of other chapters. So they need to be registered and pay the $100 registration fee, as well as submit this form. The eligibility accommodation form, again, those 4 events that I had mentioned. So personal care, life support skills, interviewing skills, or speaking skills. You can use this form to fill out other accommodations, but please make sure before you are filling anything out for your student that you and the student have read Appendix H of the general rules and regulations that can be found on the Global National HOSA website, where they can view their guidelines on that same page, because there are specifications for accommodations, so it can't give them an unfair advantage. So there's different qualifications for an accommodation, and not all accommodations can be approved or accepted. It really does depend on the space we have and different things like that. So please make sure you guys are reading Appendix H if of the general rules and regs, if you do have a student member that needs some other accommodation, if they're not in those 4 competitive events that I had mentioned. Okay, back to the homepage. The hotel information and calculation sheet, you probably all received an email from me about the Marriott room block going live. And so last week, the link that is listed right there in blue went live to book rooms. We have a certain amount of rooms. Once those are gone, we will have to potentially have an overflow hotel as we have in past years. So any information you need on the hotel is on this page. Please read it. Please make sure you're understanding the 3 different options that you can book. So if you have less than 8 rooms, you can do it online or over the phone. If you have 8 or more rooms, then you need to do option 3, which is emailing Caroline. She's amazing. She will help you out. So just send her an email if you need 8 or more rooms. If you have any questions about the resort fee or what's included in that, information about tax exempt is there, parking and unloading, and then food. Please make sure you remember and remember to tell, the state officers will be pushing this out on our social media, but the hotel is cashless. So please make sure that your students are aware of that and prepare ahead of time, because the hotel does not take cash. So that is the hotel information sheet. The tentative agenda, we are aiming for that to be posted tomorrow. I know I've gotten some questions about when it'll be posted. You need it to submit for approval from your school. So we are working on that. Lloyd was working on that today. And so it should be posted by tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then definitely Thursday at the very latest. The lieutenant and event manager assignment chart. You should have already received an email from me if you are assigned as a lieutenant or event manager. Again, this is what I mentioned in the memo letter. We have to have our advisors assist with our competitive events. We are such a large organization. We have many different competitive events and they keep adding more. So we do need your assistance to run our competitive events program. So we thank you guys in advance if you are assigned as a lieutenant and event manager. Please make sure that if you see your name on this form and you did not get an email from me, please reach out to me because I want to make sure that you get the information that you need. We will be having a Zoom meeting prior to the conference that you must attend. It's mandatory. So please just make sure to check this document to see if you are registered or assigned to a competitive event as a lieutenant or event manager. My favorite, the official dress code. So please make sure that you and your members are aware of this dress code policy. If you were at SLC last year, then you saw all of the big banners that we had that had the dress code policy on it. This is serious. We are a professional organization. HOSA has a dress code for a reason. So please make sure that your members are following this. They will not be allowed on stage if they are not in dress code. We have people checking dress code right by the stairs going up to the stage. So they will not be allowed on stage if they are not in dress code, and they will not be actually even allowed in the general sessions, not in dress code. Please make sure that they know what they need to wear for their competitive event. There is dress code for competitive events. Just refer them to the guidelines. The guidelines will have the dress code on there. So please make sure that they are, for all general sessions, are in their official HOSA uniform or the suit option. If you scroll down, there's just some more information about the general session dress, specifically what, written out versus a picture of what the official HOSA uniform is, what the suit option is. It doesn't matter which one they're in as long as they're in one of those. And then the competitive events dress, you can read through here. This also will be in the program as well, but please make sure they understand what they need for their competitive event. And then please make sure that they understand that there is official function dress. So this is the Leadership Academy, any workshops, the expo, any social activities, any area of where our conference is, they must be in official function dress. So if I walk out and I see someone all the way down the long hallway on the opposite side of the hotel from the pool, and they're in a bikini or a crop top or ripped jeans or whatever, I will be saying something to them and I'll be asking them who their advisor is. And I will be definitely reaching out to you. So please make sure that they understand that they are not to be wearing any type of that. I know there's a pool. I understand that. I'm not saying they can't go to the pool. I'm just saying that they're here for a Florida HOSA State Leadership Conference. So they need to represent Florida HOSA how they should. And that is not wearing any of that type of thing in our conference area. So please just make sure that you and they understand what our dress code is for general sessions, competitive events, and then function or conference dress. Competitive event updates, you can refer to this page. This is any competitive event updates for the 2024-2025 year. There are some updates that have happened since this document was made by Global National HOSA. So if you go to the Global National HOSA website and you go to the guidelines page, up at the top, they will have the updated, any changes that they've made and the dates that they've made those changes. There have been some changes made in December. So if your members do not know about those changes, please make sure that they do. They should. We have regional conferences going on. They should be aware of those. But if they are not, please make sure that they're looking at the most recent and up-to-date competitive event guidelines. And those will all be listed on the Global National HOSA website. Substitution of team members. Okay, if you've fallen asleep, now's the time to wake back up, because this one's a little can be complicated, but it really is simple. But we get a lot of questions about team member substitutions from the regional conference to the state conference. The general rules and regulations do allow for team member substitutions. Please note, this is just team member substitutions, it's team events. So you cannot substitute for an individual event. If your member placed second in phlebotomy and they can move on to the state leadership conference and they can't go, that doesn't mean that you can just sub someone else into that phlebotomy competitive event. So this is just team member substitutions. So to determine if a team with substitutes will be able to compete at the SLC, divide the number of original team members, and that's remaining from the regional conference, that are on the new SLC team by the total number of members on the new team. So once you do that, the result must be 25% or higher. So we have some examples. So as an example, let's say you have a team that's doing HOSA Bowl. So the team that's doing HOSA Bowl is an event that has to have exactly 4 members. So a lot of our team events are a range, but not HOSA Bowl. They have to have exactly 4 members. So if there's 2 team members that are unable to attend the SLC, they would need to have substitutes so that there would now be 2 original team members remaining on the new SLC team and 2 substitutes. So this team would be able to compete because 50% of the original team is still intact. So basically you would take the 2 original team members that are going to be competing at SLC that are from the original team that competed at regionals. And you're going to divide it by the 4 total team members that are on the team that's going to be competing at SLC. So that equals 50%. So they would be allowed to compete. We have another example here. This one, follow along, but this does really help. If you do have any substitution questions, just please make sure you read through this fully. And then if you still aren't sure, obviously go ahead and email me. But most of your questions can be answered just by reading through this. So let's say you have a team competing in public health. That's an event that has a range, so it's 2 to 6 members. So let's assume that the team had 5 members on it when they competed at the regional conference. Now they're advancing to, they advanced to SLC, but only 2 of the original team members are able to attend. So they could actually compete with just the 2 original members, since the team has a minimum number of team members needed. Again, that 2 to 6. However, 3 team members that aren't able to attend the SLC, because remember it had a team of 5, so there's 3 that can't attend, they could be replaced to keep the team at 5 members, and they would all be able to compete at SLC. So again, using that formula, you take the 2 original team members that were able to still compete at SLC from the regional group, and then divide that by the 5 total team members on the new SLC team, which would equal 40%, meeting that 25% or higher. So actually an extra teammate could be added to the team so that there would be the 2 original team members from the regional conference. There would be those 3 substitutes that we talked about, making it a 5-person team, which would be allowed because again, meeting that 25% or higher. And there's 1 extra new team member. So now that's a total of 6 people. So again, if you're dividing the 2 original team members from the regional conference by the 6 total team members now on the new team, it equals 33%. So they can still participate. So again, using this at the bottom here, this formula, the original team members from the regional conference on the new SLC team divided by the total team members on the new SLC team. And if it's over 25%, if it's 25% or higher, they are able to substitute for that team event. Again, if you have questions that can't be answered by reading this, please email me. These substitutions have to be submitted by March 7th. This is the Courtesy Corps sign-up information. Please make sure that, again, you are having only 1 Courtesy Corps member per school. Like I had mentioned, they can, if you have members that want to do Courtesy Corps at SLC, but they are not, they're not registered as the Courtesy Corps member for your school, they can still assist, and we really encourage we need more Courtesy Corps. As we've gotten larger, we really do value those members that can serve as Courtesy Corps. It is really vital for our competitive events and just for the conference to run smoothly. So please, we do have some advisors that make all of their members who are coming do Courtesy Corps. And we love that because we need their help. So again, they only get each school only gets 1 Courtesy Corps member through the registration. But once you get there, you can have them attend the Courtesy Corps orientation and they can sign up there to be a Courtesy Corps. But this is the sign-up form that they will fill out, or that you will fill out for them. Voting delegate info and election procedure. All the information for voting delegates is here. Voting delegates are appointed by the regional advisors. So if you do not hear from different regions handle the voting delegate selection differently, but if you do not hear from your regional advisor that you have a voting delegate, then you do not have a voting delegate. So please do not register in the system any voting delegates you must have heard from your regional advisor that one of your student members is a voting delegate. And then if they are, they need to come here and make sure that they're well informed of the information and election procedure. I will also send this information out to them, but they need to make sure that they understand where and where they need to be and what they need to be doing as a voting delegate, because it's a very important responsibility. If you have a state officer who wants, or a member who wants to run for state office, state officer candidate, information is all right here. It takes them to the page. If they scroll down, there's the application. Again, must be postmarked by February 1st. And we also have the state officer election guidelines for them to read through if they have questions about that. And then we also right here have that recorded webinar that we did with our state officer team. If they're questioning whether they really want to apply or not, I suggest that they watch that webinar if they have not already. The Florida HOSA Foundation Scholarship application instructions are here. Again, that deadline is February 28th at 11:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please make sure your members are aware of this. We are posting it on social media and all of that, but so they should already know about it. But if they don't, please let them know that we do offer scholarships. Then we have the rookie advisor recognition form and the local advisor recognition form. Again, those are due February 14th to me. My email's right down here at the bottom, highlighted yellow, by February 14th. The rookie advisor recognition form. So basically the rookie advisor and the regular outstanding advisor our recognition is awarded to outstanding HOSA advisors. So the nomination must come from a HOSA student member, another chapter advisor, a regional advisor, or a faculty staff member at the nominated advisor's school. So those are the people that can fill out this form and nominate. So the rookie advisor form is filled out for advisors with no more than 2 years of experience. And then the local advisor recognition form is if they have more than that of experience. And we do award one local secondary, one local post-secondary, and one local middle school advisor at our state conference. So we have posted this on our social media as well, so the members should be aware, and that again, that deadline is February 14th. We have information on penny wars, so you can read through this at your leisure. And then we also have a due list for SLC. So please make sure you read through this as well as your members and chaperones and family guests. So this is all of our important forms, everything that needs to be sent in your packet. And I will move along to the online registration so we can get through that, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So a lot of you should already be familiar with this because of your regional conferences. So I'm not going to go as in depth as I did with the regional conference registrations, because you should already be familiar with that, but I will kind of cover the important things that we need to go over. But the first thing to note right here, same as last year, but if you're a new advisor, please make sure you're listening right now, that we have two different registration tiles. We have a middle school right here, middle school SLC 2025. Registration closes 2/21. They both have the same registration deadline. Then we have a secondary, post-secondary registration. Please make sure that you're registering in the correct tile. So middle school SLC. Secondary and post-secondary, this tile, the secondary, post-secondary SLC 2025. Please make sure you're clicking the correct tile. If you are an advisor of a middle high school, please make sure you're registering your middle school members in the middle school tile and your high school members in the secondary, post-secondary tile. Please don't put one in the other. Please put them in the correct tile that they're supposed to go into. And then also, please, as just a reminder, please make sure you remember that you can only register each member for one competitive event. So you cannot register for multiple events. You shouldn't even really be thinking about that, because they should only be going to SLC because they placed in the top 3 in their competitive event that they competed at regionals. But please make sure you're not putting them in any other event than the one that they've qualified to go to for SLC, if they've qualified at regionals in the top 3. And I will show you how, if they are not competing in a competitive event, I will show you how to register them as a voting delegate or a courtesy corps, etc. So as usual, under this second blue box, we have registration. So you'll click the red plus sign. You will choose the correct member, register them, make sure that they are correctly registered for the registration type. So this is what will automatically populate if they're affiliated as a certain type. So please just make sure you double check that that's correct, that if they're secondary, they're registered as secondary. If they're post-secondary, that means that it selects secondary, that means they are affiliated incorrectly. So please make sure that's correct. So we have the advisor, non-attending Barbara James only, that's that $20. If they're doing that, please make sure that that is selected, or if they're post-secondary or secondary. I'll use Emily as an example of the non-attending Barbara James. So she's not attending SLC, but wants to still be recognized. So she must pay the $20. You'll register her as non-attending Barbara James, and then scroll down, make sure all this information is correct. And then right here under competitive events, you will scroll up and select the Barbara James Service Award as the competitive event. Please make sure you're doing both. If you just register your member for non-attending Barbara James only up here as the registration type, and then just complete the registration, that's great. They'll pay the $20. They'll be registered for SLC, but they're not going to be recognized, because when we pull the report from the HOSA system, we're going to pull the report for the individuals that have been registered for Barbara James Service Awards. So you must do both. You must register them as non-attending Barbara James, and you must select Barbara James Service Award here under competitive events, and then just click save. As a reminder, if you ever need to delete anything, you click this gray eye in the left side. Scroll all the way down. You can either delete right here the competitive event. If you accidentally register them for the wrong competitive event, you can delete it here, or you can delete the full registration down here on the bottom left under delete registration. Moving up here to options activities, in this drop down here on the right, that's where you'll have courtesy corps. Again, only one per school. Leadership Academy. Again, they must be registered for something else. So we are going to be going through the registration, and if I see anybody that is registered for Leadership Academy only, I will be reaching out to you and saying that they cannot attend just to do that. So they must either, again, be a voting delegate, a courtesy corps, a state officer candidate, or be in a competitive event. Here's where you register if they're a state officer candidate. Please don't forget to do that. I know it can be easy to forget, because a lot of them are competing in a competitive event. So you're just not really thinking about selecting that. But if you do have a state officer candidate that is coming to SLC, I do pull the list from the HOSA system. Please make sure you're adding that to their options activities. If they want to pre-order a shirt, or you want to, or any of your family guests or chaperones, this is where you will do it, right here, and select the size. And then again, down here, the last option, voting delegates, which the regional advisors appoint. A reminder, if they have not reached out to you saying you have a voting delegate, then you do not. So please do not register someone as a voting delegate just because you want them to be. Only register them as a voting delegate if you have heard from your regional advisor and they have said that that particular member is going to be a voting delegate. So there's the options activities. As a quick reminder about the team events. So if you're registering, let's just say we'll put Yashvi in hostable. She's the first person we're putting on that team for hostable. So if you go to select team members here, there will be nothing there. She's the first person. So once I save her registration, when I look through here, it's going to have that question mark. I talked about this on the regional conference webinar. If you have not watched that or were not on that, please refer back to that because I go through in depth how to register for team events. So the way I would get rid of that is to register another member of her team. Again, putting them in hostable, and then I can type in Yashvi's name and she will populate right here, and then I can save it. So now when you go back to your registration page, there is a team number. Now hostable has to have 4, so I would need to put 2 additional team members in there to make it the full complete team, but that's just kind of a brief instruction of how to add for team events. But again, if you have not watched the regional conference webinar, please do so because I do go a lot more in depth in that. So right here down on the left-hand side, a couple things to note. View your competitive events. If you click that, that's your competitive events page. So you can go through this. Yellow means there's nothing, there's nobody registered for that event. Blue means there are people. And red, if I scroll down here to hostable, right here, shows that, yes, I have people registered, but it's not correct. And again, it's red because hostable has to have 4 members. So once I were to add 2 more members to this team, then it would look like what I have up here for Emily as registered, and it would not be in red. So please use this view to double check your registrations. It's very important that your registrations are correct because we do not make any changes after. So please make sure you're looking through this, double checking every single event, even if it's a recognition event. Again, with that Barbara James, making sure they're registered as non-attending if they're not going to attend. If they are going to attend SLC and just do Barbara James, that's fine. They just need to be registered as either, secondary, post-secondary, whatever their registration type is, and then also it added as that competitive event. So please make sure you use this view to double check all, especially, we have chapters that bring many individuals. So please make sure you're looking through this to confirm that everything is correct for their competitive events. You can also click here under view, you go to registrations, you can check here. This is back to this registration view. This is a good way to check as well. I say check all of them at least once, if not twice. Here's where you can see whether there's going to be a team number or a question mark, in which case the question mark is incorrect. So it can be fixed there as well. Down here, back down here on the left, under reports, you should all be aware of this by now with the affiliation dues and your regional conferences, but your registration summary has to be submitted with your packet, so that can be found here, this registration summary report. That needs to be included. Again, this is one thing that's very often missed, and we will reach out and you will have to send it to us. But please don't make us do that. Please make sure you're following that checklist that I had mentioned earlier, because this is on it. So if you're following that checklist, you should have the registration summary report, but Mandy goes through this to verify your registration is correct. So she needs this report. Please make sure you include it in your registration packet when you send it in. Back down here on the bottom left, Generate invoice for recent registrations. That's what I was mentioning. We were talking about payment. Up here, you should all be familiar. I'm sure you've had to pay for your affiliation dues or regional conference dues or regional fees. Up in the middle in blue is where it needs to be sent. So again, making sure your bookkeeper understands that it's sent to Florida HOSA, not national HOSA. That's very often mistaked. So please make sure that they understand where the money must go to. One last thing I wanted to show with the registration is the family guest and your chaperones. So down here at the bottom, right in blue, register family guest other, because again, what I just showed you was for advisors, post-secondary, secondary, and non-attending Barbara James. And also, if you're middle school, the layout is the same. It's just middle school is the option instead of secondary and post-secondary. So everything's the same with the middle school. The middle school also will, when you're going to the competitive event drop down, it will only list the middle school events. So that's helpful too. You're not going to get confused with any post-secondary or secondary events. So it'll only list the middle school events. Same with the secondary and post-secondary, it's not going to list middle school. But anyways, back down to the bottom right corner, the register family guest other, click on that. And here's where you'll have your options for the chaperone, delegation lead, POC, that's mainly for post-secondary chapters, and then guest family. Again, please make sure that every guest family that's attending is registered, or they will not be allowed to participate. I actually had a parent last year that flew into town, did not register, and came into headquarters asking to register. And I had to tell her no, because we do not do on-site registrations. So if there's any sort of inkling that they're wanting to come or can come and they want to be there and attend any of the sessions, they have to register, and this is where you'll do it. The other thing to note too, the difference between the chaperones and then the guest family. The chaperone is an official school personnel or a parent that's approved by the school to be a chaperone. So they must be approved to be a chaperone. Don't just pick any parent's mother and say, you're going to be my chaperone. Again, those are approved by the school, a parent approved by the school or an official school personnel, another teacher or something like that. Okay, so that's the registration online in the system. Again, closing on February 21st. Couple really quick things before I'm going to open it up for about 20 minutes of questions. Just make sure you are referring back to that important deadlines document again. Very important. It has all of the due dates. Please make sure you're not missing any. Please make sure your students are aware of them. Again, we will not have any sort of late registrations. I will not accept HOSA happenings late. Everything must be met by those deadlines. A reminder that you have to stay for the full duration of the conference. Please remember that. I get lots of questions about that. Can my students leave and go to prom? No. And that's not just us being mean. That's something that our insurance company has mandated for us to follow. Please remember, if you are not attending as the advisor, you must designate a lead chaperone, and remember that checklist. It has to be filled out on that checklist. Every member registered must have an assignment function like we talked about. The Leadership Academy does not qualify for that. It's an additional add-on if they've already to whatever other assignment function that they're registered for. We will be having wristbands and name tags, so we will know if you're not registered, especially the guest family. Just a reminder that you can make changes up until the deadline for the registration. Again, encouraging you to use all of the different views to double check your registration, because we will not make any changes once the deadline passes. And again, if you do your registration, you print off your registration summary, invoice, all of that, and you've sent your packet, that's great. If you make any changes and it's before the deadline, just notify Mandy. That's on that online registrations document. Remember the substitutions for the teams in that document, and use that to decide if you can do any sort of substitution for your team events. March 7th is the deadline. The other thing I want to quickly note about that is you can substitute for courtesy corps. You can substitute for voting delegates, but it must be approved by the regional advisor. So if your regional advisor says, okay, you know, Jane Doe is a voting delegate, and you register her, and then she can't come, you can substitute up through March 7th for her for that voting delegate position, as long as the regional advisors approve it. And then there really wouldn't be a state officer candidate substitution, because those are all those applications are already due by February 1st. Please make sure that your payment is sent with your registration packet. I do understand that there are sometimes issues, especially I know we have a couple of regional conferences that are in February. So it's a little bit of a quicker turnaround to know who's coming or who made it to SLC, and getting all of that paperwork and stuff processed. If you need an extension on your payment, I have to be notified. You cannot just not send in a payment. I need to be notified. Please try your best to not have that happen. Please make sure you try your best to have that submitted with your packet. That needs to be sent out by February 24th. But if I can work with schools if there is an issue, but the exception being, you have to have payment by the time of registration check-in. So if you come to SLC and you don't have payment, you will not get your registration bags. Your students will not be able to compete. So please make sure that you're having all of the paperwork and the payment submitted by the deadline. But the payment, again, we can work with you if I'm made aware and updated. Like I need to know kind of where the process of things are. Again, that one time and you're out for all the students, they're signing that code of conduct. They need to understand that they must behave and represent Florida HOSA and you and your school well. So please don't bring anybody that you think is, you know, going to be sneaking into somebody else's room after curfew or disrupting other hotel guests, because I will be asking them to leave, and our security will be asking them to leave as well. That is pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Just also a reminder about the recognition events, because we do have those deadlines for uploading, and the deadline is both the students submitting their hours and the advisor approving the hours. So I will go ahead and open it up for questions. And then Mandy, Lloyd, if you guys have anything you want to add that I may have missed, please do so. But I will go ahead and open it up for questions at this time. You can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself and talk, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, this is Jackie Tellez. I just had a quick question. I went ahead and blocked some rooms, right? But when I did, I was told by the person that was taking care of me that there had to be an adult in each room with students that were not 18. If they were not 18, they could not be in the room without an adult, which I thought was different because that didn't happen last year. So I wanted advice.
Great question. Do you know who said that? Do you know the person that told you that?
I probably would have to go back in my emails because I have confirmations of the blocked rooms.
Okay.
And I can email that to you.
Yeah,
Mm,
go ahead and email it to me. That's not a rule that we have. That's not a policy that we have. We know that you guys have your own policies at your school or your district or wherever, you know, just based on advisors per number of students and male and female chaperones. So our policy is that there just has to be an approved advisor or chaperone coming to the conference with your chapter. That's our policy. So we're not going to be like in your room making sure that there's a, I haven't heard that, so that's new to me. So yeah,
Right.
whatever you can send me, I can talk with the hotel because I mean that's not something we've instructed them to say.
Right. She was very adamant and she even made a note and so on. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I knew that you were having this webinar. So I wanted to make sure I said something. So
Yeah,
I
I'm glad
would-
you did. I'm glad you did. Yeah, that's new to me.
Yeah.
Like I said, we haven't instructed the hotel to say that or anything. Just our policy is what I've covered today, and the rest we leave up to you all to make sure you're following the policy for your school or your district. So yeah, forward me that information and I can check with the hotel on that.
And
I will tell you I have gotten a few questions from advisors of odd things that the hotel has kind of said. So I'm in a way I'm not surprised, but I'll make sure it's addressed so that we can get that straightened out.
I really appreciate it. And along the same lines, so your advice, I guess, or any one of the people here, when I block these rooms, should I have then the parent call and secure and do their reservation, or should I do it all under my name for easier, less stress when it comes to checking in students?
I mean, if any other advisor, I can tell you my thoughts and then I can open it up to any of the other advisors. I would not involve the parents if you don't have to. Because I feel like that can sometimes get messy. Like obviously if they want their own room, that's a different story. But if you can make the reservation all under you, that's going to be way easier when you check in, rather than having to deal with parents and having them because they'll have to be there. And
Right.
so I would if you like I said if you can just do all the reservations under you. But we'll open it up to any other advisors who want to add anything if they do.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
I have a question regarding, I'm with post-secondary people and some people need to get back to work and I know we need to stay there for the whole thing. May we leave at 12:01 a.m. on Sunday?
Well, that is Sunday.
Right now. Still really beautiful.
I mean,
mean-
I'm not planning to, but just if.
I didn't put an end time, but they must stay there through the awards and into Sunday because our awards don't usually end, as you know, until
Yeah.
late Saturday. So that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I could jump
Are
in
they
on,
able, I have a question in the chat. Are they able to enjoy amenities after the events have taken place? That's a good question. Obviously, I'm not going to say don't let them, go to the pool. I mean, I know we have it as at a resort. There's resort fees, so you obviously want to use the resort amenities. I mean, yes, they can totally use the amenities after their events have taken place, but I encourage all the advisors to make sure, again, that they're participating in as much as they can while they're there. So we have a career and expo fair that is phenomenal. I mean, we're expecting about 50, if not more, vendors there. So please have them go through the expo and career fair. I mean, we get such accolades from our exhibitors and the members that they just really enjoy. Our exhibitors enjoy talking to the members. Our members enjoy going through the exhibit, all the tables. So please make sure they're doing that. We have a senior networking event that our state officer team does. We have a state officer challenge they can participate in. On Saturday, we have workshops going on after the competitive events have finished. So there's a lot that we offer, the Leadership Academy. There's a lot that we offer that I really would like you to encourage your members to attend, because we do it for them. A lot of these things we do have to pay for. So we're offering it to them so that they can get to experience those types of things. So yes, they can enjoy the amenities, but if you can encourage them as the advisor to participate in the conference as much as they can. Like I said, we do have advisors that that make their other students, you know, they have one registered courtesy corps, but they make all the other students participating as a courtesy corps member once they get to the conference, so that they're not running around goofing off and all of that. I mean, they still enjoy the amenities as well when they have downtime. But just make sure they're getting the most use out of the conference. And again, just emphasizing not to be bringing student members that are going to be disruptive. Because again, they will be sent home no matter what time it is. And unfortunately, when I get woken up, you're gonna get woken up too. So try to avoid that. Is there a time which we need to leave on Sunday? My students told me 7:30 a.m. last year, but I think that was from their previous advisor. I know checkout is 11. There is not a certain time you need to leave on Sunday, as long as you are out by checkout, which is 11. I believe it's 11. It's on the hotel information sheet. But you just have to, Lloyd.
Yeah, I was gonna let you finish. I didn't want to interrupt. I just want to go back to Dr. N's question also. When we signed the agreement, the contract with the hotel, and this was long before I was even state advisor, so this was back in the 80s and 90s, the rationale behind the policy that anyone attending the conference has to stay at the conference-approved hotel for the duration, yes, the major part of that is because of the general liability insurance requirements and their lawyers, but also because when we sign that contract, we are guaranteeing the hotel that we are going to fill a minimum number of hotel rooms. And if we miss that mark, we could owe the hotel anywhere from $200,000 to $700,000. And so that's why one of the reasons that the board came up with that rationale that you need to stay through the duration of the conference. And if we ever miss that mark and have to start owing, these gigantic, basically fines, that's going to really increase the registration fees quite a bit. So that's the whole rationale behind that.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. I just was wondering, because I would be paying for my hotel room anyways overnight. It would just be a matter of if I have to be at work at 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, I could leave at 3 o'clock and get back.
Right. Yep.
Some additional questions in the chat. And thank you, Lloyd, for adding that part. If they are not competing because they did not place at regionals, but want to go to SLC for their recognition event, would that be okay? Yeah, so long as you register them for that recognition event. We just keep in mind, though, are not doing any, it's in the memo letter, but any of those National Geographic tests or the emotional well-being challenge. But other than that, if they're in a recognition event, as long as you register them for that, then yes. What would you recommend on the easiest way to track them at the hotel? That's a good question. I can tell you what we do for our state officers. It's kind of a twofold thing. Well, one, we have a group chat. So, we're always texting where each other is and where we're going and anything like that around the hotel. It's different at SLC because our state officers are so busy. I pretty much know where they are at all times. I have them use Life 360. I know you might not be able to just based on, school policies and things like that, but I track them and know where they are at all times. I would like to open it up because I'm not I'm the state advisor, but I'm not an advisor with a school taking my kids to a conference. So, I mean, I know what I do as the state advisor with our state officers. But if anybody wants to provide their feedback as an advisor and what you've done on ways to track them at the hotel, that would be helpful. Nobody has any suggestions? I hope you guys are tracking your students.
I have
You can set up
trustworthy
several meetings
adults.
throughout the day. You can set up several meetings throughout the day at different times and have a meeting one place at certain times.
I also use Remind to ensure that they check in with me at certain times of the day as well for location.
Okay, those are some great suggestions. I hope that helps, Christina. Is there a way to make sure my chaperone is able to attend the results events in the evening? She didn't have a tag last year, and I want to make sure that she gets one this year to not be left out. As long as she's registered, you just need to make sure that she's registered as a chaperone in the system, because that's what we use. We pull our registration from the HOSA online system. That's what we use to do the name tags. And then that's what we use in the count for the wristbands. So when you pick up your registration bag, you'll have the name tags and the wristbands. And that's what we use. We use our registration database. So you just need to make sure she's registered as a chaperone. If they did place at regionals, but are not able to attend SLC, do we notify our region? It depends on what your regional advisor has asked you guys to do. You might just want to, without knowing your specific region and regional advisors, you might just want to send them an email and let them know.
I'm sorry, another question?
Sure.
Regarding the Barbara James Service Awards. So if I have students that are competing, they placed, they're gonna go to SLC, but they've also done the Barbara James Service Awards, all of that. When I'm registering them, I don't have to add anything else other than their competitive event, correct?
So if they're doing Barbara James, you'll want to also add the Barbara James as under that competitive event. You'll need to add both. So you'll need to add their competitive event that they're competing in, that they made it to states doing, and then also Barbara James if they're participating in that.
And they would still have to pay that $20 or no?
That's only if they're not attending SLC.
I got you, okay.
Yes, so that's only if they're not coming to SLC and they still want to be recognized at SLC for Barbara James. They can not pay the $100 registration fee. They can pay the $20 registration fee for not attending. And again, keep in mind, we don't use the non-attending as in our database when we pull the numbers for wristbands. Like, they're not going to get a name tag, they're not going to get a wristband because they're not attending. So if they're not attending SLC, you would register them that way. That's just for Barbara James. If they're attending SLC, you register them like normal. Make sure you choose secondary or post-secondary, whatever, middle school, whatever they are. And then put their competitive event, but then also add Barbara James. And it won't be an additional fee or anything. But it will still be that $100 registration fee for them. But they have to be, I do get some questions about that, where, advisors will come in and say, well, why wasn't my student recognized for Barbara James? Well, because they weren't registered for Barbara James in that drop down for competitive events. You have to select the event.
Awesome, that's really great to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Students that did not place, are they able to come as a guest, or do they have to be appointed to an event? That's a good question. So we've allowed the student members to come as guests only if they're like a brother or a sister to a person that is attending SLC. Like we've had potentially sometimes a student member who's coming as a guest that is so-and-so's twin sister and they're competing in an event, but they can't just come as a guest just to come as a guest, if that makes sense. So usually no, it would be like a case-by-case basis, but usually no, they cannot come as a guest. They must be in some sort of assignment or function. But we have had one or two instances where if their, brother or sister is competing and they're coming as a guest because their parents can't find childcare or whatever the case may be. We have allowed that in the past, but that's on a kind of case-by-case basis. Students that placed 4th or 5th, is there a specific date we would know if they're able to go as an alternate? That would be decided upon the regional advisors. So we're not really involved with that. If they are only going for the recognition event, should I advise them to sign up for Courtesy Corps? Yes, I would say. So yes, because the thing with the recognition events is they're not really going to be competing like you would if you had someone in biotechnology or phlebotomy or whatever. So they have a lot more downtime. So I definitely advise you to have them sign up for Courtesy Corps. Remember, you can do that one registration for Courtesy Corps when you do your online registration. When you get there, have them report for the Courtesy Corps orientation. And then they can sign up with Jessica, who's our Courtesy Corps coordinator, when they go to the orientation. But again, if they are agreeing to be a Courtesy Corps, they have to attend as a Courtesy Corps all 3 days. That's the requirement. That's a great question. And even if they're not in a recognition event and they're in a normal, regular competitive event, I encourage you to have them sign up as Courtesy Corps. Just because we say they have to help all 3 days doesn't mean they're helping for the entire day of all 3 days. We're not going to work them to death. We have shifts, so they can sign up for certain shifts, but they just have to help at least once for all 3 days. That was a really good question, so I appreciate that. It looks like I got through the chat questions. I'm gonna open it up. I know we're 5 minutes over on time, but open it up if anyone else. Oh, one more. Will we know before February 5th if students have placed for round 1 of testing and are not required to attend round 2? I'm assuming you're meaning for regionals. That would be a regional advisor question. It's okay. I know anything with the regional conference is going to be for your regional advisors, those types of questions. Any other questions in either the chat or if you want to unmute? No other questions? Wow, that was pretty easy. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I'll go ahead and end the webinar, but like I had mentioned, it is recorded, so we will post it. Give us a little bit, it might not be this week. I probably actually won't post it until after I do the other webinar that's on Thursday. So once I do that one, we'll make sure we get both of the webinars up and posted, hopefully that Friday. If not that Friday, then the following Monday, so that you guys can reference back. And again, one more quick thing, if you need a more in-depth tutorial, I know I went through the HOSA online registration system, but if you need a more in-depth tutorial about specifically registering for conferences, or for the competitive events, I'm sorry, please make sure you look at the regional conference webinar that I did. I believe it was at the end of October, and reference back to that because that's very helpful just in terms of, again, registering for team events and all of that. So I thank you all for being here and participating and asking really great questions. We appreciate all that you guys do for Florida HOSA and for your student members. I know they appreciate you as well. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you at SLC. If you have any questions after you've read through all the documents online, if you have any questions that cannot be answered in any of those documents, which it shouldn't be many, but please feel free to email me or Lloyd or Mandy. We're always available to assist you guys because we appreciate all that you do. So thank you. Have a great rest of your night, everyone.